Hello and welcome to episode 5 of Giant Mess, a show for Giants and Mets fans who can appreciate some comedy, some movies, and some TV mixed in for good measure. On this episode, we'll talk about the white-hot New York Mets LFGM. We'll also talk about the New York Giants and their training camp. No news is good news. All quiet on the Western Front. What are the top takeaways? What are some bold predictions? We'll also talk about Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. I got to see it. Once I got to see it at the theater. I'm going to give you my review. We also rented The Long Shot and The Upside. What were my thoughts there? And The Sopranos binge continues on. It marches on. We're in season 4 now. I'm going to give you my thoughts. So without further ado, let's dive into it. First and foremost, we're going to talk some TV. Before I get to The Sopranos and the binge there, let's talk about the OA on Netflix. Canceled after 2 seasons. Thank God. I had to grin and bear it for season 1. My head almost came off my body. My brain almost leaked outside of my skull. It was hard to take, but the wife was into it, and it had a pretty good ending. So I thought, all right, let's give season 2 a shot. Fast forward 2 years, 3 years, season 2 finally comes out. Highly anticipated. We got through 1 episode and it was like, yeah, I can't do this. And I know a lot of people are upset. A lot of OA fans out there are very amped for season 2 and what it could bring. Yeah, my mind can only take so much. There are limits to this mind. It's not very malleable anymore in my old age. MTV just turned like 38. This is what 38 looks like, MTV. You're welcome. So that's the big news from the TV world. Let's go into the Sopranos binge. I finished season 3. We finished season 3. Season 3 finale. Jackie Jr. gets clipped. Kind of saw that coming. I mean, Jackie Jr., you know, multiple opportunities to do what's right. I don't know what his intentions were for Meadow. I mean, I guess he just wanted to bang him and hang him. We bolt, we leave. We screw, we nut, we bolt. Totally fucked that up. Yeah. Anthony Jr. was supposed to go to military school, and then he gets overwhelmed, has a panic attack, and that's good enough for his dad to be like, you know what? Maybe not on the military school front. Maybe we'll just send him to another private school. Paulie and Ralphie have a financial conflict, and that escalated. And of course, the Adriana got a new friend in FBI agent Danielle. I don't even know what the last name is. And did it get me excited for season 4? I'm still there, still hanging on to it. I'm still with it. I haven't pressed the button just yet, the cancel button. And I know that's saying a lot. Like, who are you, Neal? Who the fuck are you? I'm nobody. Just one man. A married white man. I am the evil villain that plagues this country, according to a lot of people. And I can now see why everyone thinks AJ is annoying. I get it now. He says the wrong thing every time he opens his mouth. In Meadow, it's like she wants to go to Spain. She's talking about dropping out. And that generation of parents, they are so emphatic about college. You have to do college. You have to do college. And it's like, I don't know, let her take a year off, dude. What's a year off going to do? I mean, it's going to kill her momentum, going to kill her career? I just disagree wholeheartedly. And then she ends up back at Columbia anyway. But I do like the direction she's taking. It's making for some interesting TV. The fact that she's taking up law and that she might become a lawyer, prosecutor, attorney general, and then eventually down the road have to take on her dad. And that's a weird dynamic, that relationship with her dad. They were butting heads like crazy, and then all of a sudden she has a breakdown, cries. The dad softens up a bit, but they're still coming at each other. And they're smiling at each other, but there's some animosity there. So that was season 3. Season 4, was season 3 finale. That was when Bobby Baccala's wife was killed in the car accident, which, I mean, it's Bobby Baccala. Like, come on, like, what's his deal? And, am I supposed to take him seriously? And, his wife dies, and then Meadow gets drunk and is throwing things at Junior as he sings opera. And you're like, all right. Chris finally gets revenge in season 4, episode 1. Carmela is hounding Tony about life insurance, setting up a trust. Tony's running around the house hiding money. And I get it. Carmela, she's worried. She thinks that Tony's numbers, his days are numbered. His number's going to come up pretty soon, and she wants to be financially set. And he's telling her, you're going to be set. Don't worry. Not good enough for her. So I can see she's getting strength. She's no longer this passive housewife. She's taking initiative, and she's trying to make sure that her family's future is all set. And you see that Tony eventually, later on down the road in the season, he comes around on it. So you can see this seems like the season where you're starting to see the transformation that we've been yearning for in the first 3 seasons. First 2-3 seasons, it seemed like, the mother is a thorn in his side. He can't get past his mother. His mother, unfortunately, passes, and he's got his own family to deal with now. Is he now becoming his mother? Whoa. And that's why the series, I think, has resonated so much, is that it delves beyond just, the flashy, sensationalistic, gratuitous content that's flashy, and it will draw you in, the sex, the violence, etc. But then it gets down to a psychological level, and that's where it really thrives. And now the therapy sessions are starting to make a little more sense. For me, at least, it's starting to connect a little bit more. Here's a guy who he wants to know what his legacy is. Does he want to be, when the chick that he was banging in season 3, the Mercedes-Benz dealer, she commits suicide, offs herself, and all of a sudden, is that on him? He's putting that suicide on himself. And then he has another guy, Artie, who tries to commit suicide after his deal goes left, goes west, goes sideways with the Frenchie trying to sell the new Next vodka. Never had Armagnac, by the way. I've seen that, and I'm like, it's too fancy. That seems like a rich person thing. So I can't comment on what the taste is like, but the new vodka, I mean, that's a hell of a selling point. Anyway, Artie bungles that, fucks it up, and he thinks he's going to get, Soprano has planned this all along. This is like Soprano going to get revenge on Artie, his so-called friend. And now Tony's thinking, who am I? Do I really want to be known as this evil guy who's causing people to off themselves? Seeing some growth there. The whole Columbus Day episode, I mean, this is another thing that I was kind of hoping for with the season 4. Season 3 ended in the spring of 2001, and then you had 9/11. And the show didn't come back until like a year after, a full year and 4 days after September 11th. So it's September 2002. It's a full year. The sting, the wound, it's not so fresh. And I think you didn't get the sense. I mean, they mention it here and there. Okay, the economy sucks. Why does the economy suck? Is it because of the terrorist attacks? They briefly mention it. And I feel like we missed a great opportunity. I mean, it's a tragedy. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is immediate post 9/11 reaction from that crew. I would have liked to see it. How did they respond? And I think a lot of TV shows had to go through that. A lot of entertainers had to go through that. How do we respond to this? And some people were like, let's just put a pause on everything. And some other people were like, let's just push through this. Let's try and get through this together. And this is how we're going to do it, through entertainment. And I think that it would be interesting if the timing had played out differently. Instead, we're a year later, and it's always going to be there. It's always going to be in the back of your head, in the back of their minds, but not as fresh. And maybe they had some time to process it. I mean, the fact that they haven't really addressed anyone lost. I mean, you're in New Jersey, northern New Jersey. there's a couple families in New York. To say that no one was connected to the families was perished in that attack. I'm not saying it's a disservice, but I thought they would have addressed it a little bit more. But the Columbus Day episode, this is where The Sopranos surprises me, because they address a lot of the issues that have become even more hot button sensitive topics over the years and have been addressed ad nauseum in the past few years. But this was 2002, and they're talking about, how Columbus Day affects the Native Americans, how it affects the Italians, the clash between those two. And interesting to see them talk about things like that back then, when, typically stuff of that nature didn't get the amount of attention it's getting now. So in a way, I don't want to say they were pioneers, but they were certainly at the forefront in talking about issues like that. I mean, the joke. Let's talk about the joke. I guess Ralphie made the joke about Ginny Sack getting a 95-pound mole removed from her ass. And Johnny Sack got back to Johnny Sack, I think, through Ralphie, who Ralphie's got his issues with, Paulie. Paulie has his issues with Ralphie. And I guess Paulie tells Johnny Sack about the joke that Ralphie told. And now Johnny Sack wants Ralphie killed over a joke. And this is where we are. I mean, Ralphie and Johnny seemed like they were on the same team, like they were going to make a move against Tony. And now after one joke, it seemed like there was some tension there anyway. And now Ralphie and Johnny both seem like they're going to get whacked at the same time. And then we have an intervention, divine intervention, if you will, and they're both saved from getting clipped. The horse thing, I mean, Ralph buys a racehorse, and Tony gets involved. And with Tony's advice, the horse wins, and it seems like he's encroaching on Ralphie's territory, further driving a spike or divided between the two. And it's mind-blowing how Ralphie has lasted this long, and I guess that's why I don't really understand the mafia or the mob or their rules or their policies, because Ralphie just seems to be pushing the envelope with just about everyone in the family. Not well liked, so it's like, it feels like the countdown is approaching zero. It's threat level midnight for Ralphie. And then, of course, we're up to episode 7. And I don't know. There's not much going on there. There's Ralphie and some others try to pull a scam on the Department of HUD, Department of Housing and Urban Development, that they, I guess, found out through Carmela's cousin, who's the one who got them sold on the life insurance and the trust. And Adriana is now kind of cooperating with the FBI against Chris, but not really. And I mean, I believe her. I thought this was fact, that a husband cannot testify against a wife and a wife can't testify against the husband. I even made a joke about it on Saturday night, and I don't know, I guess it's wrong. Whatever, but coming around on it. I mean, there's 2 seasons left, so we'll see. I know that's like not really groundbreaking insight, but I need Ralphie out of my life, even though he's one of the better actors. Joey Pants. Even though he's one of the better actors, it's just like, let's get this thing moving along. Let's see how, because I know how it ends, which I guess kind of sucks, but it's good to see that it's just, the switch is still a thing for me. The fact that he's able to get so angry at the therapist for essentially what happened with the girl he was banging that committed suicide, and pinning that on her. And it's like, and just having that, and that's, I guess, what's a trademark, like a signature of sociopaths, psychopaths, the ability to just lose it and then act like nothing happened moments after. Tony fucking Soprano. All right, so that's TV. Let's dive into movies real quick. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Finally got to see it. We were supposed to see it on our date night last Sunday, and I made the mistake of not buying the tickets in advance. And when we got to the theater, there was only one ticket left. And the thought crossed my mind to be like, all right, honey, I got this. You're welcome. But no, smarter heads prevailed. Calmer heads prevailed. Cooler heads prevailed. And ended up passing. We went to Cheesecake Factory, which was delicious. But later on the week, I did get to see it. Again, went in with, I think, way too high expectations. You know, I saw the ratings from Rotten Tomatoes. I saw them from Lights, Camera, Barstool, IMDb, and it just seemed across the board that this is Quentin Tarantino's, one of his best movies, possibly his best. And I came away with it kind of paralyzed, stunned is the word. I just wrote a blog post about it today, Tuesday. Check it out at neallynch.com. You know, it's a lot of words. You don't have to read them all, but the basic gist and takeaway of the post was, I feel like if you were alive in the 60s, you remembered what happened during that time frame. Maybe you had family in the area, in the Hollywood area, Los Angeles. This movie will affect you because you were aware of everything that happened during that time, the Manson family murders, and it will have a profound impact on you because of the blurred line between what is real and what is fiction. And of course, Tarantino, I mean, you know, I said this right up front, cinematography was on point. Dialogue is great. I mean, you can't do any better than the actors that they had, DiCaprio, Pitt, Robbie. The storyline is what tripped me up. And what was included in the film versus what wasn't included. What if you didn't have, I mean, I kind of knew that the Manson family murders were tied into the movie's plot and the storyline. But I think they used that to keep you hooked, even though for the majority of the film, it's not there. Charlie Manson himself, the actor who plays him, only appears for one scene, and it's less than 2 minutes, I think. You never see him other than that. You get to see plenty of his cult members, his followers, and what they're into, and that whole scene, which, I mean, that is a classic Tarantino scene. Oh, spoilers. Duh. The non-spoiler review, you should go see it. I don't know that you need to see it in the theater. I don't know that you're missing that much. The twist is not, you're not going to be talking about it next year, I don't think. So the non-spoiler review is, I mean, you're going to enjoy yourself. If you are my age or younger, I feel like you probably don't have the depth of knowledge to truly fully appreciate it, because it is 1969 Los Angeles, and Tarantino does an amazing job of painting the picture, of building the story, of building the world within the story and the universe there. And you feel like you're in 1969 Los Angeles. How I can say that, I don't know, because I've never been. I wasn't alive. So I think for the older folks who were alive or who had relatives that can remember and talk to them, maybe. I talked to my mom about it. You feel if you're not deeply involved in that area and you didn't live through it, it might miss the mark with you. You know, I felt like a lot of things went over my head. There were scenes where Tarantino will draw your attention to something, which he's expert level connoisseur at doing, with the camera, with the positioning, everything. And so you're tuned in, you're honed in, you're focused, and you're expecting something. And then that something doesn't happen. But maybe it did happen because of the people involved. If you know the people involved going into it, you might have a different reaction. For me, I felt lost, you know? So that's a non-spoilery review is, go see it. It's a good movie. It's almost 3 hours long. Supposedly there's a 4 hour and 20-minute cut out there, which, I mean, if I had the time, which I do, I'll probably check it out just to see if it gives me any kind of different feeling. But the feeling here was it danced around what ultimately was the hook for a lot of people to go see the movie. So here's the spoilery review. If you don't want to know any of the spoilers, which, whatever, you can just, there's a timestamp in the description. And you just click on that and you just go past all this spoilery stuff. So the spoiler review. The biggest spoiler, I mean, I'll try and walk you through the movie. Even if it's a spoiler review, so you probably have seen it. The big spoiler, the big twist, Sharon Tate, the person who in real life was 8.5, 9 months pregnant. She and 3 others were murdered by Charlie Manson's cult members, his followers, in the Hollywood Hills. And in this movie, she's not. That's the big twist. Basically, Rick Dalton, played by Leo DiCaprio, and Cliff Booth, his stunt double in the movie, played by Brad Pitt. It's kind of like following them along. And you're following them, and you're wondering, how is this going to intersect? Where is this going? And not in a bad way, I don't think. It wasn't like, Jesus Christ, I'm bored. Where is this going? Or, but it wasn't also, Avengers Endgame, where it's wall-to-wall action for 3 hours. And you're like, what could possibly happen next? And even then, you can kind of expect what's going to happen. And you just like seeing it come to fruition. Here, it's like, okay, well, it's one of 2 outcomes. Either Sharon Tate gets murdered with the people she's hanging out with, which she was hanging out with the heiress to the Folgers fortune, which is just like, it's so Hollywood, it blows my mind. And her former ex-boyfriend, who she was dating while she met her current husband, Roman Polanski, which that's a whole other bag. Like, Polanski goes on to, we know what happened with Polanski, and, it's just interesting how, and I made the analogy to Us, like in Us, we see the Michael Jackson fandom on full blast. This is a god, an icon, a legend who can do no wrong because it's 1986. Now we know things are different. And so I kind of made the comparison there that in 1969, Roman Polanski was like the guy, the director. And then a few years later, he's extraditing himself to Poland or something because of his sex crimes. So Tarantino captured the moment. He did the right thing there. But it's 2 hours and 40 minutes, the 4 hour and 20-minute cut. I would love to see that just because I feel like it's almost like I would do, but I don't, because it's like, if this is your 2 hour and 41-minute cut, what the fuck did you cut? Did you cut a lot of things that would have helped explain it to the newbies? This guy, the people who are younger, who maybe don't know that those events, what happened. So I did a lot of research afterwards, and I did the same thing with Us, because Us was so layered. And I could see the symbolism, and I was like, okay, a lot of this shit means something. I got to figure it out. So I go online and figure it out. And that's what happened with the blog post there. This one was a little different because it was like, man, I feel like I don't know anything. I feel like there were times where I should have given a reaction and I didn't. And when the movie ended and the credits rolled, I was still waiting. I thought something was still going to happen. And people clapped, and I didn't clap because I was kind of in a state of awe. It was like, what did I just watch? I watched an alternate reality, an alternate timeline, which they're calling it a modern day fairy tale. And it's like, okay, cool. But I made the comparison in my blog post to, if they made a movie about these two guys preventing 9/11 that had nothing to do with counterintelligence, the CIA, the FBI, just an actor and his buddy going about their daily biz. They're aged. They're trying to reclaim their youth. They're trying to get back into relevance, and they just happen to stumble upon the plot to 9/11 and they thwart it. That's how it kind of feels like. It's like, okay, well, 9/11 did happen. And, there's a split second where you're like, wow, imagine a world without 9/11. Where would we be now? Then you're like, this is the real world. And 9/11 did happen. And now I'm sad again. So I know Tarantino said it's a very personal movie for him. It's his most personal. Because, he was born in Tennessee, but he moved to LA when he was young. And so he was probably like 5 or 6 when all that shit went down. And, it's kind of his interpretation of what happened, but with a happy ending, just twisted slightly to make him feel better, to make others feel better, to ask what if. It left me with a lot more questions than answers. I'll say that. I didn't have a lot of closure after seeing it. And maybe that's the point of the movie, is to reignite, our curiosity for what happened. Why did it happen? Is he making an analogy to today? Is he saying, like, you're taking this group for granted? White nationalists? I don't know. The problem is we don't have, in my mind, and this is where it gets a little trippy, is like the hippies in the 60s were presented as peaceful pacifist, loving, caring, peace-loving granola. And then Charlie Manson weaponizes them, and they start murdering, random people, mostly high-profile celebrities who you'd think would have security. But again, it was the 60s. So who is he comparing that group to now? I don't know. So I don't keep an eye on everyone. But, it's also about the transition from old Hollywood, the golden age of Hollywood, the 50s, to the new Hollywood. And Rick Dalton's, that's Leo's character, his struggle to keep up and to make that transition, not get left in the dust. And of course, Cliff, his pay, he's kind of like the lamprey to Rick Dalton's shark. He's just kind of feeding off, what Rick's able to accomplish. And I think there's a comparison there to Quentin making kind of a coded statement about Harvey Weinstein, Me Too, and Time's Up. So he was a big-time director under Harvey Weinstein's wing, under his tutelage, guidance, whatever, working with him. And then Me Too. So you could say that's the golden age of Hollywood, as fucked up as it may sound. For Quentin, that was the golden age of Quentin, maybe. And then Me Too comes along, Time's Up, and he realizes he has to separate himself from Harvey Weinstein, and now there's a new Hollywood emerging. And maybe this is like him saying, I'm struggling with it. I want to be on board with it, but because of my affiliation with Harvey Weinstein, are people going to look at me as if I am Harvey Weinstein? So yeah. It's a lot to process. It was a lot to take in. And, I just think if you don't have Pitt and DiCaprio and Robbie, I don't know that this movie gets made. I don't know if I would have been as into seeing it. And, it's gotten interesting reactions from people. Like, I know Terry Crews tweeted, once upon a time in Hollywood, pot-smoking white boys dreamed of kicking Bruce Lee's ass, so they wrote it, performed it, and filmed it like it actually happened. But Bruce, we love you and know the truth. God bless your soul. So, yeah, there was kind of they made Bruce Lee out to be an asshole, a cocky guy who thought he could take down Muhammad Ali. And, his daughter even came out and said, he didn't like to fight outside of filming, he was not into that. So interesting that they would go that route with Bruce Lee. But again, I guess Quentin can kind of fall back on the excuse that it's an alternate reality. It's an alternate timeline. But why even include Bruce Lee? And that was the other thing, is like, you have all these characters and they're kind of very briefly touched upon, given a backstory. We don't get the thorough exposition about their connections and whatnot. But I mean, the story is interesting when you actually delve into it. The movie doesn't really, in my mind, doesn't do it justice. But again, I don't think Tarantino's gets in the habit of knocking you over the head and hitting you over the head with it. The same with Jordan Peele and Us, and I think, does it make the movie more interesting and intriguing? And do I want to find out more? Yes. But at the same time, is it going to inspire me to revisit it? In the moment, am I enjoying it? And I feel like the best movies, the greatest movies, the most memorable movies, when you watch it, you are completely 1000% invested in it. And you might have some questions here and there, but you're not searching for that many answers online afterwards. Sure, you want to spur discussion. All good movies do that. All, thought-provoking movies have those. But for me, it just felt like, you have this amazing story, tragic story. Did you really do Sharon Tate justice? I don't know. I mean, she's like the crux of the whole movie. It's her murder that is looming over us the entire time. And I said in the blog post, it's like her fate is in the back of our head. And, others have said they felt dread the entire movie because they know what's going to happen. And then it doesn't happen. You're like, okay. Not to say that she should have been, but it's almost felt like that was what kept you watching, was to figure out what happened with her. And then you have these, and you're kind of following these two guys in what appears to be kind of like a buddy comedy as they try to figure out their lives, maybe going through a midlife crisis of their own. And the two intersect. But yeah, the scene with Brad Pitt at Spawn's Ranch, I mean, that's like classic Tarantino, where, I mean, his ability to cause your heart to race and you to white knuckle through it and to have what ended up happening, that you presume this guy is dead and rotting in his bedroom. And it turns out, no, he's fully aware of what's going on. He's banging all these bitches. And, it was a funny moment. Spent a lot of time on that, but it's a good scene. And it relates to ultimately to what ends up happening, but it feels so disconnected and loose throughout the movie. It's just kind of there, Charles Manson, like it's all in your head. And that's what's, is that what we're commending Tarantino for putting that in our head, for knowing, okay, you probably have some kind of familiarity with what's going on. So I'm going to play with you. I'm going to play with that. If so, it's a phenomenal job. At the same time, I'm always of the position, the stance that if a person knows dick about what your story is, just wanders into your theater, can you still entertain them? Can you tell them a story if they know absolutely nothing? Can you tell them a story and they'll still be entertained? And I don't think you can say that about Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. I really don't. I would have loved to know more about Cliff Booth and what happened with his wife. That was that when he's on the boat with the harpoon or whatever, the spear, and she's nagging away. And it's like, I'd love to know more about what, they just briefly show it. They make one or two jokes afterwards, and then it's kind of like that's and maybe that's the commentary that he's trying to impart is most of these people in Hollywood are known for their worst moment. And they get stuck with that worst moment, whether it's true or false. So, yeah, go see it, but I don't. Yeah, I mean, it got me to write almost 3,000 words about it. So, mission accomplished in that sense. It's getting people to talk about it. In terms of his greatest movies, no way. No shot. It could have been, in my mind, for sure. But, I mean, Pulp Fiction, Reservoir Dogs, like, Hateful Eight was a little slow at times, but, Django Unchained, these are some, like, really good movies. And I can't see putting Once Upon a Time in Hollywood above that. And then there's the feet. I'll end with this. The fucking feet, dude. I mean, come on. And I feel like an idiot to complain about this because I think that's exactly what Quentin wanted. I think he knows that we know that he's got a foot fetish thing. He's fully aware of it, and he put that fucking thing on blast. Full display right in your motherfucking grill. He was like, you know what? Oh, what? You don't like that I like feet? Well, here you go. Feet. Feet in. I mean, like, so happy this movie was not in 3D. So happy. I would have been swatting away feet the entire goddamn time. I was doing it now, and it was 2D. I mean, the scene where what's her name? Quali, who plays Pussycat, gets picked up by Cliff Booth in the car to take her back to the ranch. She puts her fucking feet up against the goddamn windshield. I mean, it took up the entire screen. It's all I could look at. And I have zero interest in feet. Get it out of my fucking face. I mean, like, to the point where it's too distracting, and it really does take away from the experience in my mind. If you're a foot worship guy, if you're a foot fetishist, congratulations. This is probably, as Tarantino calls it, his magnum opus. This is probably your magnum opus. This is probably your coup de grace. You're probably fucking a pig in shit. But for all of us who kind of view feet as a way to get around, I don't think, like, getting dirty feet in my face is my idea of entertainment. But it kind of felt like this was Quentin's swan song. If not, I think the next one is, and maybe the next one will clear up what's going on here. I mean, this movie still somehow fits into the Tarantino universe, which is not as closely knit as the Marvel Cinematic Universe, but it's like little things here and there, like the Red Apple cigarettes and whatnot, the Vega brothers that keep popping up in each movie that kind of just loosely tie everything together. And you're wondering if maybe the 10th film is what he goes out on, and that's what really brings everything together. So I said that this Once Upon a Time feels like a prequel, and maybe the 10th movie will really just like bring it all together, and make Once Upon a Time make a whole lot more sense. Yeah, spent way too much time on that. Holy shit. Yeah, so we rented The Long Shot with Charlize Theron and Seth Rogen. I saw that it got good reviews, something like 85% in Rotten Tomatoes, so I thought I'd give it a shot. I'm not a big politics guy, not political at all. Try to avoid it at all costs, which is a major character flaw, but I like Seth Rogen, I like Charlize Theron, so we watched it, we rented it, and Seth Rogen plays like this Brooklyn hipster who is works for an independent news outlet website. Writes in a very kind of Vice voice, like, not afraid to use profanity and whatnot. And so he ends up writing speeches for Charlize Theron, who he went to, I guess, school with. She's like a few years older. She was his babysitter, which she was 16 when he was 13. I was like, that doesn't seem right. But yeah, he ends up falling for her, which, I mean, what a career for Seth Rogen. Like, are you fucking serious, dude? Like, you just continue to like hook up with hot women. Outrageous. Like, you're a funny guy. I get it, but your streak is just like unparalleled to me. But of course, Cass loved it. My wife loved it. I was kind of, I don't know. I was on the fence. It was like, you know, I mean, we want to talk about like laugh out loud comedies. No, probably not the best, but it was like, you know, smart, witty, relevant to the times. Made some interesting points about, you know, the two parties and maybe being a little more open-minded, but it's like a and I'm kind of the middle of the ground when it comes to politics, but it felt like a ultra left-wing environmentalist's wet dream, if you will. I mean, Charlize Theron could probably run for president and win, so crossing fingers there. But like, you know, the idea that she can be ultra honest and transparent. If I've learned anything from my almost 4 decades on this stupid planet, I take that back. It's not a stupid planet. It's a good planet. It does the job right. By the way, side note, not to get sidetracked, but the world ended in 2012 and we're living in a simulation. All right. I'm a sucker for conspiracy theories. I never usually believe most of them. Ironically, the 1969 is like the anniversary of the moon landing. And so I'm like 95% convinced it happened, but you know, 5%. I totally got lost. Long shot, Charlize Theron. Oh, that she can, you know, I'm an honest, transparent person, and it has bit me in the ass repeatedly being honest and transparent. Not a good move, especially politically. And so in this movie, she makes the speech. Of course, there's always the big speech at the end. And she makes the big speech, and she's about to announce, or she's announcing her presidency, you know, running for president because she's Secretary of State. And she's making the speech that Seth Rogen wrote, but then she ended up editing and modifying and saying like, I'm the person that little, you know, 6-year-old me wanted to be. And she changes it to, you know, no, I'm not, because I'm not fighting for what I believed in when I was in high school or middle school or my entire life. And basically saying like, fuck the president, and just like, yes, owning, pulling like a Bella Thorne and owning it, and just saying like, yeah, the guy that I'm dating, he jerked off to my video and came home in his face. And it's just like, you know, trying to suspend your disbelief there. It's like, I mean, I would love for everyone to be more honest and transparent. I live for that moment, but like, it was kind of like a sour reminder that like, no, that shit doesn't work. No. You'd be known as the candidate who has a boyfriend who comes on his face. And you're like, I don't know. Maybe Charlize Theron is the one person that can pull that off, but his history has dictated that, you know, honesty and transparency is like, just does not work. I'm going to continue to do it because I'm not good at lying, but or cheating. So I'm going to continue down the path and I'm going to continue to get my ass kicked. So that's the long shot. The upside. So this is Kevin Hart and Bryan Cranston. Feel good movie of the year. Did not get reviewed well by critics, but loved by the audience, and I can see why. I won't say it's formulaic. The chemistry between Kevin Hart and Bryan Cranston is amazing, and even Nicole Kidman is awesome in her character as kind of like the estate planner, business side of things, helping out Bryan Cranston, who plays like the billionaire who is now paraplegic after a paragliding accident, who ended up losing his wife, who was hurt in the accident, then had cancer. I mean, I'm doling out spoilers left and right, but I would assume that, you know, I said I was going to talk about it, so to deal with it. I liked it. My wife loved it. She was, had all the feels. But she's in tune with her emotions. I am not. Wildly distanced from my emotions. So it's kind of like I need someone to like slap me across the face for anything to really connect. Although, that friggin' Mr. Rogers movie. Oh my God. Crying during a trailer. That's not good. So yeah, I would recommend that. The Upside. Pretty good movie. I don't know. There's no cons really. It had all the right beats, all the right plot points. Storylines are good, characters are good, acting was good, dialogue was good. I mean, it's kind of nothing is really catches you off guard. But sometimes you just need a familiar story, and that felt good. That of course, I would like to know a little bit more of Kevin Hart's past. But I think they did a good job of being like, you know what, your past is your past. But at the same time, it's like, whoa, dude, you did what with a gun? Another movie news, there was a new trailer for The Irishman, which is Martin Scorsese's next picture with, I believe, De Niro, Pacino, Pesci. I'm definitely missing a couple others, but it just looks real good. I mean, yeah, that's going to do well. It's from Netflix too. So I think it should be in theaters, but it will also be on Netflix at the same time. Interesting model. I probably have that wrong. But I think the big takeaway from that, I mean, it's an awesome trailer, but the big takeaway that a lot of people were talking about was the de-aging process that the special effects they put on Robert De Niro to make him look younger, which are the same special effects that they used on Will Smith for Gemini Man, which also looks awesome. That was a trailer that played before Once Upon a Time. You know what? I don't give a shit about what the critics say about that movie. I'm in. It's fucking Will Smith. Current day Will Smith versus young Will Smith. I mean, you don't say no to that. But they use the de-aging process on him, so he looks like what he looked like in the 90s on Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. And, I love the movie Looper with Bruce Willis and JGL. So this is like, I get another dose of Looper, but Will Smith versus Will Smith. I mean, like that's a win. But yeah, Robert De Niro looks kind of like what he looked like in the 90s, maybe. And I feel like you might be seeing that more of that down the road. I think they did it with, with Brad Pitt and Benjamin Button, I think, too, 2008, Before It's Time. But you'll see that with a lot of actors and actresses that are just like elite, but are getting on the older side of things. They're just going to throw them in movies and de-age the fuck out of them. And it's almost to the point now where it's like, I mean, do you know about deepfakes? Deepfakes are a thing. And motherfucker, my God, some of the shit is real convincing. And I feel like that's almost going to be the future of movies, which good and bad, we might end up getting to see a lot of the movies that we wanted in the past that we couldn't get. Almost like a video game. When you play like Legends against Legends, you can play like the 86 Giants against the 99ers or something like that, I feel like we're going to get that with movies moving forward. Good and bad, because it's like part of you is like, well, let's let the next generation come up and do their thing. But at the same time, oh man, looking forward to like Schwarzenegger versus Stallone in an action movie. Not the escape plan thing that they had, like in their prime. And I know that's ageist. I'm old, so I get it. But I mean, that's always talked about. Jordan in his prime versus Kobe in his prime. People want to see it, so I think we're going to get that a lot in the movies moving forward. Sixth Sense was released 20 years ago. I guess in August, July 99. I saw that in the theater, and holy crap, dude. That was another one where I think I just had a surgery on my elbow to remove a bone spur. And, man, all-time reaction in the theater. And then we ended up watching it like 2 years ago with my wife's sister, who was born in 97. So she was 2, maybe less than 2 when it came out. And I remember like my wife and I are just rubbing our hands like, wait till she sees this twist. Because she said she didn't. and maybe this is our fault. We didn't even ask her if she knew about the twist. And we might have, and she might have said no. And she's like, I haven't seen it. I don't know anything about what you're talking about. I don't know about, like, and we're like, okay, okay. And we watch it with her, and it happens, the big reveal. And she's just sitting there stone-faced, and we're like, you gotta be kidding me, dude. And she was just like, yeah, I kind of have a feeling. I was just like, you know what? Yeah, I get it. I mean, so many movies have come out since that movie, and that have played with that twist and have, but at the time, holy God, what an ending. What a twist. What a twist. The Matrix is returning to theaters for its 20th anniversary. It's like, maybe, I don't know, IMAX. I might see it in IMAX if it hit IMAX. I'm more interested in seeing 2 and 3 in the theaters because I didn't see those in the theaters. I saw the first one in the theaters, and I was like, I think we ended up buying the DVD, pre-ordering it, and I watched the shit out of that DVD. But I did not get into 2 and 3 for some reason. I don't know why. I don't think I saw 2 and 3 in the theaters. But oh my God. My one uncle, he's got surround sound, and he loves to show off the surround sound. He throws in like Matrix 2 and 3 during that one scene where like the Sentinels. Is what they are? They're just like a hive of bees are just swarming on it might be Tank, whoever is that, like a major huge friggin' Gatling gun, rotor gun, just a big ass piece of arsenal weaponry. And he was like, check this out, and just fucking blasts it. And of course he gets yelled at because that's like whatever, it's stereotypical, but the male female dynamic is like, check out this surround sound from the guy. And he's like, it's fucking amazing. Check it out. And you crank it. And then it's like immediately like, turn that shit down. It's like, just let me live. And then Andy Serkis will direct Venom 2. I saw Venom 1. I rented it one night when I was just I was alone and drunk. And the critics hated it, and for good reason. I mean, it was a cheesy kind of B movie, but I think that's what the appeal was. We're so used to this fucking Marvel cranking out these superhero movies that are, they kind of feel the same tonally. And they're all so well done that it's like, I kind of like the approach they took with Venom. I mean, the CGI is just awful. The special effects is just bad, but like his, Tom Hardy interacting with the suit or the symbiote, whatever, that could make for some good laughs, Andy Serkis directing though. I didn't know he was into directing. So that should be interesting. I mean, guy's got a ton of experience on major big budget flicks. So I'd have to think that Venom 2 will be better than Venom 1, but I hope they don't lose that kind of campiness and cheekiness that made Venom 1 so likable. All right, so that's oh my God, that's movies and TV. Let's talk about your New York Mets. Holy shit, what a week. I am, and this is where my brain just goes into malfunction mode, because it's like, can it get any better? No, it can't. It's not possible. We've been burned so many times in the past. We're riding on wings of wax towards the sun. Is that ever an expression? No? Okay. But before we get into that, let's do real quick this week in Mets history. July 31st, 1989, the Mets obtained Frank Viola, who was the American League Cy Young winner in the previous season. They gave up Rick Aguilera, few others I don't know, and he just did not play well, did not pitch well, went 38 and 32 and 82 starts, and the team failed to make the playoffs in his 2.5 year tenure. But the point I wanted to make here was the Mets of the 80s. If they only had a freaking wild card back then, if they had a wild card, the Mets get the wild card each and every year that they don't make the playoffs. And who knows where it goes from there. And that's what stinks. Is that I mean, the Mets were a dynasty in the 80s, mid to late 80s. And to think that they only had one World Series, they could have had at least another one, I think. August 4th, 2012, Mike Baxter sets a team record and ties a National League mark when he walks 5 times in a 9-inning game in a win over the Padres. Mike Baxter, he's known for that, and he's known for that catch in which he collides into the wall, which I'm guessing ended his career. I don't know that he did much after that. But it's crazy when we were getting excited about Mike Baxter. Good for him, though. I guess I bring that up because Juan Lagares walked like 3 times in a game this past week against the Marlins, I think, which I guess Lagares is now going to get more playing time with Cano hurt. August 5th, 2007 at Wrigley Field, Tom Glavine, a 2-time Cy Young Award winner, becomes the 23rd player in Major League history to win his 300th game. Tommy G. That's that's not the memory that people think of with when they think of Tom Glavine as a Met. Unfortunately, no, it's him being on the mound and getting trounced, I believe, in that 07 season against the Marlins, and we missed the playoffs. That's the lasting memory for me. I don't know. Maybe I'm different. I'm different. August 5th, 1985, in the Mets 7-2 victory over the Cubs at Wrigley Field, Daryl Strawberry belts 3 home runs, propelling him into first place with a half-game lead over the Cards in National League East. And yet again, Cardinals went on to the World Series. I believe they won over the Royals. Feels like if they had a wild card, the Mets would sneak in and somehow find a way around the Cardinals to go to the World Series and beat the Royals, which how things would have been different. How much that 2015 World Series would have been different. It wouldn't have been different. What am I talking about? All right. So that's this week in Mets history. So the trade deadline, it came and went, and all was quiet. I was not expecting that. After the Stroman trade, after the Vargas trade, you would have thought that Frazier was gone, Wheeler was gone, possibly Noah, possibly Diaz, possibly Dom Smith. There were a lot of names being thrown around, and no one moved. And looking back, it's probably for the best, because I think with a rotation like Wheeler, Thor, DeGrom, Stroman, Matz, things are starting to look up. It's like if you can't win 3 out of 5 with that rotation, what are we doing? But at the same time, you're starting to see now that Cano is hurt, now that Dom Smith is hurt, we really needed an outfielder, and we really needed a reliever. You can only expect Seth Lugo to dominate for so long. He was the reliever of the month in July, I believe. Let's see if I can pull up the numbers here. So, yeah, he won reliever of the month in July. 42 batters faced, 0 runs allowed, .075 batting average, 16-1 strikeout to walk ratio. In his last 9 appearances, he's gone 9 2/3 with 1 hit, 0 walks, and 13 strikeouts. Yeah. I mean, that's erotic. That is just sensual. But can he keep that up? Again, the Mets. Last week when we did the show, I forget what the record was. Kind of happy. I think it was we swept the Twins, but we got swept by the Giants maybe. And you thought, oh, if only they had done the deed against the Giants. If only they had succeeded there. And I mentioned it in a couple of tweets, like if they had actually pulled off that sweep, they would be right where the wild card berth is, right where they need to be. And since the All-Star break, the Mets have a winning percentage of over 700. I think they're, let's see here, something like 9-1. That's a win. So they swept the White Sox. Did they sweep the White Sox? They take 2 of 3 from the Pirates. And of course, they just took the last two against the Marlins. So only one loss in the last 8 or 9. Oh my God. But of course, I never canceled. Just want to point that out. Never canceled. But the two non-moves at the trade deadline that are probably going to hurt the Mets. I believe this is an article from the New York Daily News, maybe. No reliever, no hitter, no outfielder. Because now, with Dom Smith in he was in a boot and now he's in some kind of rover thing. And with Cano and a torn hamstring, I don't see him coming back in the regular season. With Jed Lowry just I don't know where, MIA. He might be on Jupiter. We're not sure. You're starting to see that the offense is thinning out. I still believe that they can operate at a good enough level to win. Obviously Conforto is hot. JD Davis, hot. Jeff McNeil, hot. But Alonso, okay, maybe the home run derby curse got to him, but he didn't sit there and take it. He shaved his beard. He wore some new cleats. All-time message to the fans on social media. LFGM. He started a movement, and the fact that he's able to stay so positive and so fired up, it's like watching a kid play. He had the game winner against the Marlins last night, and it's like he won the World Series. And that's infectious to me. And I think that carries over. And even Marcus Stroman, he makes his debut. He goes 4 1/3, 90 some odd pitches. Not his best effort. I think he left with in the hole, but he made the play of the week. A little bouncer pops off the mound, bare hands it, and throws the guy out at home. His positive attitude. Okay, he didn't give us the greatest effort on the mound, but he tried to power through it. And the fact that he is there on the top steps of the dugout, out of the dugout, congratulating players when they score, getting them all fired up. It's a mentality. And once you have that, only good things can happen. Since mid-July, the Mets have had the third best ERA. And I think that might be the bullpen. So the bullpen's coming around. And we wanted help in the bullpen. Seth Lugo has been carrying us. Edwin Diaz, still a disaster, but is managing to limit the damage enough to keep us winning games. And I'd like to point this out. Everyone, the Stroman trade has been tainted somewhat. But before I get into that, Anthony Kay, who's our top left-handed pitching prospect, his first start as a member of the Blue Jays organization, 4 2/3, 11 hits, 7 runs, 6 earned, 3 walks, 3 Ks, 1 home run. I'm not saying we're right after one game, but let's fucking pump the brakes on prospects. Now, that being said, I was real high on the Stroman trade last week, and then I come to find out, the Mets were going to just use Stroman as they were going to flip him to the fucking Yankees for their 2 top prospects. Oh, that hurts. That really hurts. Estevan Florial, a 21-year-old center fielder who I think he's an A-ball, and Davey Garcia, a pitcher. And they're number 66 and 67 of the top 100 prospects. I don't know, dude. I don't know. That's what's so weird about the trade deadline for the Mets is they were in a position where it was are we buying or are we selling? Conventional wisdom says we should probably sell, but then again, we've bought before in this kind of position and we've taken off. And it was the handful of players that we got around that deadline that propelled us into the postseason. Case in point, was it 2016? August 19th, 2016, we were 5.5 games back on the wild card with 6.7% playoff odds. We're better than that right now. I think we're almost at 30% for playoff odds, and we're 2 back in the wild cards. We're above 500 for the first time since May 2nd. We got to 500 for the first time since May 29th. And it's because of guys like Davis and Conforto and McNeil. I see a lot of people say, like, making fun of the people who called Conforto overrated. I don't think anyone called him overrated per se. I just don't think that we thought he was this top-notch all-star, perennial all-star. I mean, you got to think these guys are going to come back down to earth. I mean, McNeil, that was a scare last night when he comes out with the cramp in his, by the way, the New York Post. I mean, I follow the New York Post. I like the New York Post, but they have like, here's their headline on social media that they had. Jeff McNeil pulled from Mets game after curious mishap. Don't say that. We're all watching the game. Don't say that. We all know it's a cramp. They said it in the fucking game. You need clicks that bad, New York Post? No, you don't. So I wrote back, the curious case of dick clickbait. I mean, it was a calf cramp. You're going to give everyone a friggin'... you might have given someone a heart attack. It's on you, New York Post. Blood is on your hands. But it looks like McNeil will be fine. He's the fastest Met, the 200 career hits in Mets history. I mean, that is impressive. I know he's like 27, so he's a little bit older than your normal rookie, but he needed less than 600 bats to reach 200 career hits. Jeff McNeil, dude. I tell you, if he stays healthy, put him at second. Alonso looks like he's coming out of whatever funk he was in. Frazier's spotty. Rosario's hot. He's been batting really well. I had a stat here that I wanted to pull up. Let me see if I can find it. Ahmed Rosario. He was hitting like 347 over the last 34 games. Now, again, I mean, we're playing all-time ball. We're also playing like pretty stinky teams. So, I get it. You don't want to get too high. We got to finish up the series with the Marlins, which it's been a struggle, but I think with the starters back in the lineup, I mean, they were hardly starting anyone in that second game last night, but if they get the starters back in the lineup, get them back in the groove, hopefully you get the sweep, and then you got the Nationals and the Braves, and that's where we're going to find out what kind of team we are. Is this all mirage? I don't know. I think we got the momentum. I think the Nats, despite getting Asdrubal Cabrera, who was one of the guys who got DFA'd, despite that, the Nats made some moves. I mean, I think they picked up a couple of relievers. But here's something to take away for the rest of the season. Even if they don't, say they split with the Braves and Nats, maybe they don't win out. The Mets have played the sixth most difficult schedule in the National League thus far, but they have the sixth easiest schedule the rest of the way. Now, only the top five make the playoffs, so we might be just on the outside looking in, but I tell you, if you continue to get these performances out of your pitching, where everyone's going around 7. And I think the most encouraging sign from this team is the fact that they got a bad start out of Walker Lockett. They got a bad start out of Marcus Stroman. Each guy couldn't even make it through 5. And your bullpen was able to hold up. And your offense was able to come through in the clutch. We're firing in all cylinders right now. And I know they're bad teams we're playing. But guess what? You got to win against the bad teams. Win when you're supposed to. And that confidence is going to carry over, I think. A lot of home games coming down the stretch. I think around 50 games left and like 30 plus are at home. We start filling the seats, start making some noise. Who knows? And for the people that canceled, there has to be some repercussions if you cancel the season. You can't just cancel and then when we go and make the playoffs and say, yeah, maybe it's probably not going to happen. Probably not going to go to the World Series. Probably not going to win it. But if we do, and you canceled, you are not allowed to celebrate with us. You go in your room, close the door, and you do what you need to do. But you are not allowed to participate. Or you got to do something to get back in our good graces, to get back on the bandwagon. That's just how it should go. I haven't canceled, by the way. Not to brag. But, I mean, if you can get, and I understand, we're seeing, like, this is the high of the high. This is probably as hot as they're going to get. So they're going to come down to earth. As long as they don't bottom out and hang tough and fight, and we still get our starters trying to give us 7, and we can get to Lugo. I would even consider putting Diaz in the 7th or the 8th. That way, if you're going to blow the lead, blow it early so you can make a comeback. And put Lugo as the closer. I mean, just an artist. Just a masterful, painting masterpieces. I mean, his ability to just nick the border, the edge of the strike zone is just... It's beautiful. All right, so that's the Mets. I'm telling you, I don't know. I know it's a rough stretch. They got Murderers Row coming up, but just survive. I think they got to win. They probably have to win close to 90 games. They're at 57 now. It's 113 games, 162. They got 49 games left. 90 minus 57. I mean, yeah, they got to win. They got to play at like a 600 clip. It's not unheard of. I mean, the fucking Phillies. I mean, we're talking about, this has been like a 2-week stretch. So in 14 days, everything can change. I think the Phillies in 07 or 08, when they came back and made the playoffs and the Mets collapsed, it was literally the last 2 weeks of September. And that's why, I mean, that's why baseball is such a frustrating sport. It's 162 fucking games, dude. Jesus. You basically live through 4 seasons in one season. All right, let's talk Giants. Pro Football Focus. You know, I used to take their word as gospel. I'm kind of a stats guy, even though stats are for losers. I mean, just trolled the piss out of Giants fans this past week. 35 days until football, they posted, and they put a picture of Curtis motherfucking Riley. And they said that he was 4th among safeties in passer rating when targeted, whatever the fuck that means. Just incendiary stuff. I don't think Curtis Riley is on the team, is he? Oh, that really got the blood boiling. And you could see it in their mentions and their comments. You couldn't find anyone else. The number 35 PFF. Okay, cool. We don't normally do This Week in Giants History, but August 1st, 2002, the Hall of Fame game. I remember this. They posted a clip on Twitter. It was the first preseason game versus the Texans, and it was the day Jeremy Shockey arrived. The pass he takes from Palmer, he fights off 2 guys, stiff arm, bowls over another guy. I mean, that right there was like, yeah, we made the right choice. Jay Shock. Oh. It's, very strong emotions for Jeremy Shockey. But you see, ultimately, it's like, was he bad for the team? He was at Amani Toomer's throat most of the time. You know, fighting with Burris for the ball. It's just like, I don't know. I like the enthusiasm. I like the passion. I was, at a man crush. You want to talk about man crush? Saquon Barkley. Dear God. Well, and this is why the NFL 100 or whatever this top 100 player rankings thing is such horseshit. Number 16 out of 100. I guess the players vote on it, but come on, dude. Not even top 10. Not that I take any of this, take it with a grain of salt, but like 16 is kind of an insult, in my opinion. Guy's top 10. Guy played on an offense that did dick the first half of the season last year. The offense didn't do anything. I mean, he was the sole highlight for every game in the first half of the season. And he's 16. And you know, people complained that he wasn't getting the ball enough last year. And I was like, let's just pump the brakes. You know, we want this guy to play for more than like 4 years. We want him to play for 10 if we can. I mean, it's a pipe dream at this point because they're going to have to shell out like oodles of cash. Luckily, I think Eli will be off the books at that point. But, yeah, I mean, 16 is just outrageous. And he's going to see more touches this year. And that's what I worry about is him breaking down, even though they're posting photos of him like with his shirt off and shorts, gym shorts. And it's like, dear God, this guy is not human. But I wonder, like, it reminds me for some reason of Syndergaard. And I just read Syndergaard's like 2018 article that he wrote for the Players Tribune, where he talks about he had to adjust his workout because he was working. He loves working out, and he wasn't doing the appropriate workout for pitchers, and he ended up fucking up his lat or whatever the hell it was that ended his season in I think 2017, because this article is right before the 2018 season. And so you wonder, like, do these guys overwork out? But I don't know. If he gets hurt, they're really fucked. But yeah, he's going to get a lot of touches, and I think it's going to be too many touches because Golden Tate is appealing his suspension today. So I don't even know if they make the decision on the day you appeal. I don't know, but odds are he's probably not going to win that appeal, and he'll be gone for 4 games. And it's like, who do we get the ball to? Because Sterling Shepard has a fractured thumb, and anyway, Patricia Traina, who, take her or leave her. I think people take issue with her, but she pumps out the good stuff. So she wrote an article for Forbes.com, 10 observations after 10 days of Giants training camp. Number 1, Daniel Jones is progressing, but still has a ways to go. I mean, you have to feel good about the decision. I think now you can start to feel good about him being selected at 6. When it happened, everyone wanted to jump off a building, but from all the positive feedback we've gotten, not just from inside the organization, but also from the reporters. And yeah, maybe the reporters are feeding us bullshit. It's all smokescreen. I will put aside my skepticism, my cynicism, and say, I think Daniel Jones was a good selection. And I think you'll see this. Let's see if I have the direct quote from Ralph Vacchiano, SNY's Ralph Vacchiano. He's not an all-time great prospect, but he's a good one. I mean, it's better than the shit people were saying about him when he got drafted, which is like, this guy is like all-time bum, a bust. Is it going to be the next Eli Manning? Probably not. There'll be ups and downs, but does he have a playoff run in him? I think so. Down the road. And we drafted Kyle Lauletta. I mean, we drafted Davis Webb. We drafted Kyle Lauletta, and you heard some things about them in training camp, but not to this extent. It was like, oh, had a good throw here, did it right there. This one is like, okay, across the board, this guy gets it. Is he a good starter right now? No, but you could probably plug him into a game and he won't throw. He won't, go 5 of 23 like Lauletta did against the Redskins last year, and he won't overthrow everyone in a preseason game like Davis Webb, I don't think. So it's time to start feeling good about Daniel Jones, folks. Observation number 2, Dexter Lawrence is a stud. Hell yeah. And he will make us forget about trading away Damon Harrison. Damon Harrison was, effectively a 2-down player, could stop the run. But from what I'm hearing and seeing about, at least how James Betcher is positioning it, he's saying that Harrison didn't really fit into his defense. Not as flexible and as adaptive as Dexter Lawrence. And if we're being real, Dexter Lawrence, I think, is bigger, stronger, faster. And I know Snacks is somehow going to track down this video and give me shit for it. Apologies, Snacks. You're still one of my favorite players. I still think you're elite. But I think Dexter Lawrence can be better. That's just me being a fan. Number 3, and I know I've been kind of luke on this one. I've been lukewarm about this one, but maybe I'm coming around. I don't know. Tight end CJ Conrad, strong chance to make the team. He's been getting a lot of love from reporters who seem to think that he's going to, I don't know. They're positioning it as he's a possible replacement for Rhett Ellison, which, everyone knows my stance on Rhett. It's like shit or get off the pot. Either use him or don't. I think Rhett has 2 more years left on his contract, 3 more years, and it's like fucking $4 million or $2 million a year. Yay. So if CJ Conrad can be the guy that can give us similar production to Rhett, which is, I don't think is asking that much, but again, I don't know the tape inside and out. I don't know run blocking that well. All I know is from a pass catching standpoint, I'd like to see Rhett used more. And if he's not getting open and whatever, then I'm all for CJ Conrad. A little competition never hurt nobody. Number 4, Julian Love is a great fit for Betcher's defense, and that is because he is so adaptive and flexible. And I think that's what Betcher has been stressing all along is like, hey, there'll be times when you're going to move to defensive end. You're going to be D tackle. Maybe you'll be free safety. Maybe you'll be in the slot. And I think that's what they love about Julian Love is that he can play free safety. He can play in the slot. And he's embracing that. And I think that's what they love about him most is his ability to move around. And, the ability to give offenses a lot of different looks. That's hard to game plan for. Number 5, O-line is primed and ready to go. And that's thanks to Kevin Zeitler. And him and Mike Remmers are bonding nicely over N64, apparently. Which reminds me, this is the Remmers-Zeitler dynamic feels like that scene from Step Brothers where it's just Will Ferrell and John C. Reilly. And they're just like, did we just become best friends? Yeah, let's do karate in the garage. That's essentially what's happening. And I think people are going to look back and they're going to see where it's for the best. The OBJ trade, the Olivier Vernon trade for the best. Vernon and OBJ are probably individually more talented than the players that we got back. The players we got back were players of need who can help us overall as a team, which is what I've been stressing with OBJ the entire time. There's no doubt he's the best player in the NFL. Saquon, I don't know. Best wide receiver in the NFL. But that Kevin Zeitler move, the Mike Remmers move, not getting a lot of hype right now, a lot of question marks, but I think ultimately when the season's done or when their run is done as Giants, we're going to look back and say, Dave Gettleman, you beautiful son of a bitch. Number 6, the pass rush is promising. A couple people, especially Steve Serby of the New York Post, saying that they're the next great pass rush duo. Kind of came out of left field, and the coaching staff is very high on Lorenzo Carter. I haven't seen anything from Oshani Jimenez. I call him Ox. But those two, apparently, when they're both on the field, could cause some havoc. Which, again, I think Oshani, I got to learn how to pronounce that. Underrated selection. Underrated pick. That is the other pick that I believe was part of the OBJ trade. And if he comes along, man, a lot of people eating crow. Marcus Golden, of course, has a couple of off years, but I guess back in Betcher's system, he could be, I guess he's unofficially listed as the starter on the weak side, the will, maybe the strong side, I don't know. But he's leaped ahead of Kareem Martin, which, that was unfortunate. I thought Kareem Martin would do a lot better. But the pass rush was last year, the pass rush allowed 12 receptions of 20-plus yards on plays where they pressured the quarterback, which is second most in the league. I mean, you can't do much worse than that. When we get the other team in situations where it's second and long, third and long, I mean, that's when you really need to get pressure on the quarterback and do your secondary a favor. Antoine Bethea. Here's another stupid, weird pro football focus stat. He's the number one safety in pass rush productivity, which, if you remember from last week or the week before, I said part of Betcher's scheme is blitzing his corners and his secondary. So it would make sense that they would bring in Bethea, even though he's a little bit on the older side. He gets the job done when they do send him. I mean, sometimes you see these guys blitz, and it's like they've never blitzed before. But it'd be nice to see Bethea get a couple sacks this year. Number 7, the inside linebackers have a new look. BJ Goodson, it looks like he's going to probably lose his starting role. Just can't stay on the field. Injury prone, 2-down guy who goes mostly downhill. I mean, we knew he was a thumper when we drafted him. But it looks like Tay Davis and even Ryan Connolly, the guy from Wisconsin they drafted this year, could see more snaps. I don't know. Tay Davis was undrafted, so that might be a nice diamond in the rough story. Number 8, losing Tate will hurt. Duh. Last year he was targeted 23 times on third and short, third most amongst wide receivers in the NFL, and that's a major reason why the Giants got him is because, third and short, if we don't have Beckham, they're going to double Shepard. They're going to pay some more attention to Ingram. You need that third outlet. You can't just do a swing pass you can't just roll the dice with Barkley, even though he's a good bet. Out of the backfield, they're going to swarm him, and then he can only do so much. Another reason why they got him, Tate also broke 15 tackles last year, most among wide receivers in the NFL, and recorded 12 receptions of 20-plus yards in close and late situations since the start of the 2016 season, which is 5th among receivers. I mean, these are all, they're not your flashy stats, but they help you win games. When it matters most, he's there. He's able to break a tackle, get the first down, and we probably won't have him for the first 4 games, which stinks. Because I think, although I don't know, you'd rather lose him for the first 4 than the next 4. Figure out how to make it work for that first quarter of the season. Hopefully you come out of it 3-1, 2-2. Number 9, the defensive backfield looks better. Yeah, big time. It's all only ways up for that unit. Again, PFF says 26% of the Giants' pressures and hits on the opposing quarterback resulted in a sack. Only 6.2% of all pressures, including sacks, resulted in interception last year. And we went winless when we failed to pick off the opposing quarterback. It's the worst mark in the NFL. But you can't do much better than what they did in terms of this offseason, bolstering that secondary. I can't say enough what they've done there. And I think that's really going to be the difference for the defense this year. You got guys that can lock down opposing receivers, cause confusion, misdirection. It can only help your ball club. And then number 10, Eli's off-season arm strength training has paid off. And I failed to mention this last week, I think, but he apparently lives across the street or next to Al Leiter, former Mets and Yankees pitcher. And Al pitched well into his late 30s, I believe. And so Al hooked him up with his arm strength coach, and Eli's been working with him, and apparently it looks much better. Crisper, faster throws, is able to connect on the deep ball, not scared to throw the deep ball, not scared to fit it into tight windows. So I think you're going to see a much better Eli this year. with that news, I mean, the fact that he's looking better than he has in past seasons, and he's only going to put up better numbers. So I'm still seeing and hearing things that like he's a lot of short stuff, which it's just like, I'm so sick and tired of that shit. Just unleash the beast. Chris Carter asked Evan Engram on First Things First to give him a number on catches and yards, and Evan responded with 80 catches and 1,200 yards. And I believe him. I really do. You know, I think Engram got into a bad funk where he just wasn't catching the ball. And when that happens, Eli loses trust in you and he goes somewhere else, even when you're open. So if you can just hold on to the ball on a consistent basis, he's going to keep feeding you the ball. Sometimes a little too much. But that 80 catches and 1,200 yards, especially with Tate out, is not unrealistic. And that should land him his first Pro Bowl. First of many, in my mind, if he can just keep his head on straight. Giants released their first unofficial depth chart. I don't think there are many surprises here. At the wide receiver position, so with Tate out, it looks like it'll be either Latimer or Fowler, probably Fowler, and then Russell Shepard behind Latimer and Fowler. Darius Slayton is way down on the depth chart, which that's not a good sign. That fucking hamstring. But, the running back position, I got to say, Saquon behind him, Wayne Gallman, and then Paul Perkins and Rod Smith. That's going to be an interesting battle because they brought in Rod Smith. Paul Perkins was like left for dead last year. So that'll be an interesting competition during camp. I've seen Perkins run. The guy had moves, and I believe it was a pec that sidelined him last year. So as long as it's not his legs that are the issue, I think that'll be interesting to watch. I don't think you keep 4. I think you keep 3. On defense, I don't think anything's that crazy. Lawrence has been penciled in as a starter. Kareem Martin is the starter at the Sam, so my bad. Marcus Golden is his backup, but my assumption is Golden comes in on passing situations since Martin's bigger, better against the run. And they have BJ Goodson behind Ogletree at the one inside backer position. Then they have Tay Davis as the starter. And of course, Zoe Carter at the will. But you got to think that, like, I know I keep bringing up the NASCAR package from the good old days, but you got to think that when it's 3rd and long, they're going to have Ox, Carter, Golden, and one more pass rusher as your backers, and just fucking unleash hell. DeAndre Baker's listed as the one starter on the corner with Grant Haley backing him up, and Corey Ballentine listed as the 3rd option. Though I'm seeing good things about Corey. He's making plays, so I think he might actually leapfrog over Antonio Hamilton, who's listed as the backup to Jenkins, which is kind of nuts. And then you have Jabril Peppers, strong safety, Michael Thomas backing him up, and then you have Antoine Bethea starting free safety, and Julian Love. That's a good quartet right there. I like that. I mean, you have a lot of capable guys. They've made upgrades on defense. Good upgrades on defense. We'll close out with this. 5 bold predictions for the Giants in the 2019 season. These aren't my predictions. I completely, it's CBS Sports. I don't remember who wrote the article, but first bold prediction, the Giants start 4-0. I tell you what, and this is what doesn't make sense about these predictions. 4-0 is a bold prediction, okay? Only because I think they can win 3 of the first 4. I don't see them beating the Cowboys in Dallas. That said, if Ezekiel Elliott continues to hold out, that it can only help the Giants. But I'm seeing that there's this guy, Pollard or something. He's like a rookie running back for the Cowboys, who apparently that's why Dallas is not that concerned about Zeke holding out, which is kind of scary. But here's the second bold prediction, which doesn't jive with the first part. If they start 4-0, I get the rest of their schedule is tough, but they missed the playoffs. Giants start 4-0, and they've done this before in the past where they start 4-0, 5-0, and then they just shit the bed down the stretch. But 4-0, and they missed the playoffs. And I believe the writer said they would finish 8-8 just because of, you have Packers, Bears, Eagles to deal with. A few other teams that can give them some trouble. Number 3, bold prediction, Daniel Jones starts as an injury replacement. So Eli, go figure, dude. The irony that he goes all this time, doesn't get injured or doesn't miss time due to injury, and then he does this new strength training program for his arm, and then he gets injured. The irony. Number 4, bold prediction, which I actually said, Daniel Jones would start this year, especially if we get off to a bad start, which, if the Giants don't play above 500 ball in the first 4 games, I think you got to really consider Daniel Jones. But injury replacement, I didn't see that. I think it would be due to lack of performance. Bold prediction number 4, Saquon Barkley eclipses 1,600 rushing yards. I don't think that's that bold. Although you could say with Tate out and with if they have any other injuries besides Tate, teams are just going to stack the box and they're just going to key on Barkley. So, yeah, that might be tough. But, 50 yards a game gets you to 1,000. 100 yards a game rushing for 1,600. And, the offensive line has improved drastically, too. We mentioned it earlier, Zeitler and Remmers. And Hernandez has another year, and Solder, maybe in year 2, he feels comfortable now. And then, if Jalapeno is as good as PFF has suggested, then, yeah, I don't think that's that bold. But here's the boldest. And, everyone needs a good laugh. Eli Manning leaves to join Peyton Manning with the Saints because they're both from New Orleans, which, I don't know. If it doesn't work, if Drew Brees decides to hang it up, do you come calling for Eli Manning when he's being replaced by Daniel Jones? I don't know. That's bold as fuck. All right. Yeah. Another epic episode come to a close. For the love of God, please call that damn phone number. 862-BIT-1986. Follow me on neallynch.com. Screen name is Real Cinch on Twitter, YouTube, Facebook.com/giantmess. Hit me up. Feedback is so welcome. You don't even know. I probably will cry a little bit, but I'll get over it and we'll all be better off for it. So, adios, muchachos.